Should students be encouraged to snitch on one another? That's my subject on today's Fiamengo File. I'm Janice Fiamengo of the University of Ottawa. It seems that the University of Arizona wasn't prepared for the negative publicity it received in response to its decision to hire students to act as campus social justice warriors. Correct that, social justice advocates. These SJAs will be paid $10 per hour for 15 hours per week for a job that includes organizing diversity events and also reporting fellow students for so-called bias incidents. This idea that students would be paid to act as a kind of politically correct Gestapo brought the University of Arizona some rather unflattering attention. And now the university is responding, claiming that the subject was blown out of proportion and saying that the university is going to reconceive the title and some of the responsibilities for the student jobs. And I actually suspect that reporting of bias will be taken out of the job description. So maybe that's okay, except that it isn't, because the University of Arizona still encourages students to snitch on one another. It just doesn't pay them for it. Yes, the University of Arizona has a bias incident reporting page where students can not only report an incident if they think they've been the victim of some form of harassment, but they're actually encouraged to report incidents even if they had nothing to do with them. The webpage says that because we are a community, each of us has a responsibility for fostering a safe and inclusive environment, and we must take an active role in reporting incidents. So that's pretty strong language. Must take an active role. And it prompts the question, why? If people are, if adults on campus are being seriously harassed or bullied, shouldn't they take responsibility for reporting it? Why should anyone else get involved? And what kinds of incidents are we talking about? The same webpage informs us that a bias incident, that language, a bias incident involves the expression of any, quote, preformed. What would a non-preformed opinion be? Preformed negative opinion or attitude toward a group of persons based on their race, gender, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, national origin, or gender identity. End quote. So we're not talking about explicit threats or calls for genocide or gutter racism. We're talking about virtually any negative statement, preformed, about one or more of the identified groups. The definition couldn't get any more elastic. Moreover, it's not even necessary to have direct evidence of the so-called bias incident. Even if someone simply, quote, becomes aware of an act of bias, that person could, and according to the webpage, should report it. And to make it easier to report incidents, even when the details are a little hazy because you just heard about them from someone else, you can make your report anonymously. Now, where else has it been possible to report someone anonymously for making the wrong kinds of statements? Well, one place was East Germany under communism. During the communist period, there was a vast unofficial network of ordinary citizens who regularly informed on one another to the police and to government authorities. Neighbors reported on neighbors, school kids reported on other kids, and university students reported on their classmates. They weren't paid for it, yet they still did it. And why? Well, for all the motives in the book, the usual ones, because they were loyal communists, or they did it out of jealousy, or revenge, or dislike, or the hope of preferential treatment. These are all the usual reasons that some mean-spirited or unstable people want to make others suffer. Take a look at the U of Arizona's online public incident reporting page and imagine the abundant opportunities for unscrupulous people to wreak havoc. You don't like somebody on campus, maybe he's a Trump supporter, or he's one of those hateful conservative Christians whose mere presence is probably a threat to everybody. Or she's a men's rights activist who mocked your feminist t-shirt. So why not make their life a living hell through frequent anonymous reports to the Dean of Students, who is obligated to have every incident investigated? I've heard from many students who've been hauled before committees because of anonymous reports by their fellow students, and obviously not just at the University of Arizona. Because the fact is that this kind of snitching is not only being encouraged there. Bias reporting is also being encouraged at Harvard University, at Yale, at Duke University, at Princeton, Michigan State, Emory, the Universities of California, Columbia, Penn State, Cornell, Dartmouth, Brown, Northwestern, North Carolina, Oregon State, Wellesley, Mount Holyoke, Richmond, Utah, even the University of Hawaii. It's everywhere. It's fascinating in a ghoulish kind of way to read through the websites at the various colleges, encouraging students to denounce one another, all in the name of tolerance and respect. We want to make this an inclusive community for all, they keep saying. For all, that is, except those who are unfortunate enough to be snitched on. The University of California webpage gushes that, quote, "We strive for a campus and a world free of discrimination, intolerance, and hate. We are equally committed to freedom of expression, critical inquiry, civil dialogue, and mutual respect," end quote. Come on! How can there be freedom of expression and critical inquiry when merely stating a negative opinion about a group can bring a visit from the bias committee? This is either pure hypocrisy or pure delusion. Web pages like the University of California's go out of their way to affirm that anyone can file a report with no negative repercussions. They say, for example, the university takes these issues seriously and expects that they're reported in good faith. At no time will action be taken against anyone for good faith reporting. In other words, even if you've just got a hunch or a bad feeling about somebody, fire up your computer and make a report. Don't be shy. We won't blame you if it turns out you've got the wrong person or your information wasn't quite accurate. It's all in a good cause. Anyone who doesn't see a problem with anonymous reports of so-called bias must either have an extraordinarily limited imagination or a very rosy view of human nature. One thing's for sure, this isn't about diversity or respect, and it sure as hell isn't about civil dialogue. It's about scaring and harassing dissenters into submission, and it's changing universities beyond recognition.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please support us on Patreon. If even half of our subscribers gave us $1 per month, we'd be well on our way to creating more and better content. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Studio Brule.